Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. These knives are new from Varga. We have the VBR-L, or large, and VBR-S. A lot of you guys probably remember the original VBR. This is absolutely one of my favorites in the collection. And I believe I was introduced to that knife by Jim Skelton. So when I found out that they were making a larger and smaller version of that knife, I immediately put in a pre-order for myself. I went ahead with the larger guy there. These are, as far as I know, available to pre-order right now. I will link these down in the description. You guys can check them out if you want. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that's entirely up to you. Thanks so much to actually Varga for sending these along so that I could take a look. I don't get to keep these. These will go back. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Now, the reason I'm doing both at the same time is because this is the same knife. It's just one is smaller. So there's no reason to do a whole separate video, right? You can just sort of assess, and if you're interested, you can decide which one you want based on this video. We're going to go ahead and do a size comparison here real quick and measurement with the original medium VBR. Now you can see here there are some differences, and we'll go over. The medium one is the widest or tallest, but not by much. These other two are only slightly shorter in terms of blade. So what we're looking at here is the original length, which we'll measure first. The original VBR coming in at 8 inches with a 3.5 inch blade on the dot. The smaller guy here is coming in at 7.5 inches with a 3.25 inch blade, right? 2.85 inch cutting edge. They all have substantial choils. And then the big boy here comes in at about 8.5 inches with a blade length of 3.75, which I really like. You get a lot of blade with that tall one there, with that long one. For it being as compact as it is. So that's the measurement and the comparison with the original there. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons up against some more common knives. So let's start off here with the 8010. Any custom scales can be found, of course, down in the description under Original Goat and others. Oh, darn, I didn't zoom out quite enough. I was trying to make sure that I had room for everything. There we go. And then I think maybe the AD 20.5. There we go. So you can see here the tall one is, I'm going to call it the tall one. The long one is definitely closer to the overall length of the AD10, while the shorter guy is definitely closer to the overall length of the AD 20.5. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3? Sorry, I forgot to pull all the knives out of the pouches before I started this video, so it's taken me a little bit longer. And then finally up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue. And we'll go with the Hogue Deca. There we go. So how is the action? These knives are made by Riot. They're still having Riot be the OEM, which is fantastic. Riot does amazing work. The action is phenomenal. Very good. Now, one of the bigger differences here is that these new ones have thumb studs, which is something that I was saying that I wanted, and apparently a lot of other people were saying that too. Personally, I was hoping to see a version of this with no flipper and a thumb stud, just so we could have both versions. I think it's just fine with the flipper and the stud, and the reason is because the forward choil is a real forward choil. It's not this halfway, oh, you can get one knuckle in there and you kind of just gotta watch out. It's not that. No, they give you a full-size choil. So it's still plenty ergonomic, and the other nice thing is this is it's a lot like a contoured XM18. So as a gigantic fan of the Hinder XM18, and no, before people start screaming copy, you have to understand that, I mean, like, I can show you 10 other knives in my collection that have almost identical ergonomics to the Hinder XM18, and some that came before, right? So these are just classic knife lines. But the overall profile does absolutely bear a passing resemblance to the XM18. It's just not, it's still got its own personality here. What this feels like to me is a contoured and substantially more comfortable Hinder XM18. Even the smaller guy, absolutely. They're beautifully comfortable. The action is wonderful. So even with this not being, I would have loved to see a non-flipper version because I think that that would make this whole area a little bit more ergonomic since we don't have this peak to get around, right? That would have been cool. But it is nice that we got thumb studs for people who want to use them. And for people who are, apparently there's just like some like super anti like thumb, like really aggressively anti thumb stud people out there. I get it if the thumb stud's in the way, but in this case it isn't because there's no cutting edge here, right? So it doesn't really matter if you don't like it, you just don't use it. But in my opinion, it is great. And you can reverse flick it, you can forward flick it, and same way with the little guy. The little guy is not so little that it's awkward. That's the part about little knives that I don't like. This is actually a really good size, and it still feels robust. They didn't like thin this one down or anything like that, right? So anyways, the action is very good. There are going to be some changes, including detent strength. I'm going to put the changes that he's going to implement between these pre-production samples and the final, the final versions that will be delivered to people who do the pre-order. I'm going to put that up on screen right now so you guys can see. There's a bunch of stuff that is, I mean, depending on your perspective, might be trivial, but detent strength is not trivial. The detent to me feels very good, but if he's going to strengthen it up a little bit more and flatten out the detent ball, then what is already good action will only be better. So yeah, if he gives it a little bit of a heavier detent, I think that'll be just fine. I like the action the way that it is. I don't really have a problem with it, but I don't see a problem either way. I'm just repeating myself now. Let's go ahead and weigh them. Of course, the scale's underneath the mouse and mouse pad here today. Okay, here we go. The smaller guy is coming in. By the way, materials, we have M390, we have blasted titanium, and we have, in my opinion, some better looking carbon fiber on the little guy. Now, I don't know if we'll have a choice. Either way, it looks good. This is the style of carbon fiber that I like, and it's also the style of carbon fiber that's on my original one here. So the weight on the little guy coming in at 4.16 ounces, a little heavier than some people might expect, that nothing crazy. And the bigger guy only coming in a little bit heavier at 4.52. So I think the better ratios are definitely on the bigger guy, right? Neither are perfect, but neither of them are bad either. They're both, robust, not overly heavy, but both robust feeling knives. Either way, unless you're just used to like the mini bug out or something, I think you'll be good to go. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'm going to get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. I think the pivot is a T8. Yeah. And the body screws are also, well, the scale screws. There's going to be more screws back here, which I believe are also T8. I mean, he's used T8 on literally everything else, including the pocket clip, right? The smaller guy is also exactly the same way. Yeah. Everything. So T8, there's a lot of screw. Well, there's going to be like 4 screws on each side to take it apart, but they're all T8, right? That's great. I don't have a problem with that. As long as you have the right tools for the job and a place to put your hardware, you should be good to go. Let's go ahead and measure blade stock thickness. So blade stock thickness is coming in at fairly thick, 155 thousandths. I believe that's the same as the original. Same with the big guy here. I think that's also going to be the same. Yeah. Either way, we have the initial grind is hollow. Okay. And that is, that actually was the same with this guy here too. So even though we have a fairly thick blade stock, it comes down to a pretty thin edge, both of them. In fact, pretty aggressively thin edge on both. All right. Let's go ahead and move into the meat and potatoes here. One of the most stylish elements that's different here is the inclusion of the pivot collar. And what's interesting is, as you can see here, that just looks way better. Like, this is fine, but man, I wish my Damascene steel one had the pivot collar. What's interesting is that the pivot collar on the little one is larger. Okay. But yeah, I really like how that looks. Outside of that, it's largely remained the same. Now, for people concerned like, oh man, if it's exactly the same as the Hinder XM18, then that flipper tab is going to be really pokey. No. These flipper tabs are shaved down a bit from the hook shape that we see on the XM18. So like the XM18, it does follow the curvature here of the head of the scale, but unlike the XM18, it does not have the horribly annoying hook. It's flat and then just comes down. So we can push button it and we can light switch it. And it is really a pretty comfortable flip. There's really not an issue there. He has the same size thumb studs on both knives. I wish they were just slightly bigger. Where's my guy here? There he is. I wish they were just a little bit bigger and a little bit more rounded off at the tips, much like the Ontario Rat, but it's okay. These are still good thumb studs and they work just fine. They are not uncomfortable. Most importantly, they are not pokey. Sebenza. Oh, excuse me. Weird cough there. But seriously, the Sebenza thumb studs are horrid. Oh my God. Listen, that's an old conversation. But yeah, they're not pointy at the top there, so that's good. The blade looks great. We have the logo here. We have, of course, the flat, the long swedge, right? This is a continuous belly, so sharpening it won't be an issue. It's not like they changed angles on a compound tanto, just a compound ground drop point blade. So we have the flat grind out here towards the tip, and then it is hollow up front. Very thin, very, very thin. I think actually, let me give you a good demonstration there. Yeah, nice and thin behind the edge. Same with the short guy, because truthfully, the height of each blade is the same. So these will, the only difference really is that I can tell is just the fact that one is longer. I mean, they're both going to be the same behind the edge. Almost, I mean, they should be exactly, right? The action also feels exactly the same, and the detent feels exactly the same. There's no difference there. Inside the pivot, the action inside the pivot also feels identical, so that's great. Apparently, he's changing up the backspacer. I think you saw on that note there that he just wasn't happy with the texturing, I guess. It looks fine to me, but okay. There's a lanyard bar, so if you like lanyards, well, you're good to go. The edge is the carbon fiber back here. Everything nicely knocked down. This is beautiful contouring, beautiful transition from titanium to carbon fiber, same way on this guy with the shred. Riyadh has always done a great job with that, right? No lefty position for the clips, which is a bit disappointing, but the clips look all right. They are a little bit weird, like they're functional, but like on all of these, the clip is just a little bit strange. Now he is going to change the where the tip is pointing, I guess, on the little guy. Honestly, I think the whole clip should be shorter. I think we could cut off about 25% of this clip, and I think it would be better. As it sits, though, I'd be lying if I said it was uncomfortable, right? And they do work, even though they're flat. There's another weird thing that I've been seeing in the comment section by some people lately is that milled clips are all bad. What? No, I disagree. I think that a clip like this is a lot of times going to be it's like fully optimized, I guess. But as long as there's a ramp underneath the flat, or in this case the contoured surface, right? This will still rise up to meet your general pocket seam thickness. Now, if you have really thick pocket seams, then maybe you're going to be mashing it in there, right? But no, don't. I mean, you can have your opinion one way or another, but if you're new and you're like, oh my gosh, there's this whole like group of people who say all milled clips are bad. No, you don't have to automatically agree. That's very, very subjective, right? The same way you don't have to automatically agree with me. It comes down to preference. A lot of times, functionality caps out with something like this, but a milled clip is still plenty functional. The nice thing about a milled clip is that because there's no rise at the end of the bill, usually, you don't have a freaking ski jump going into your hand while you're squeezing on it. Something like this is going to be much more comfortable over a long period of time, especially if you're not wearing gloves, right? If you're breaking down cardboard boxes for 30 minutes at a time and you're not wearing gloves, I mean, you should be wearing gloves, but if you're not, that's going to be way more comfortable, right? So pick your poison. It just depends on what you're after. But I personally think that these clips should be shortened up. I also wish we had some sort of symmetrical clip design so that we could be more accommodating for lefties because, I mean, I'm right-handed. This is pretty easy to operate, right? Even though it's a right-handed frame lock, it's really not that big of a deal. Anyways, stop pin located in its usual, oh no, I'm sorry, that's wrong. The stop pin is actually fixed in position here, and there's a channel carved out on the blade so that stop pin can contact the end of the channel in the open position and the start of the channel in the closed position. There is no blade play, lock rock, any movement whatsoever. No lock stick, no pivot lash, no double clutch. Very smooth and consistent here. D10 is good, but it's going to get heavier. This guy honestly feels identical. It's just shorter. Yeah, it's exactly the same. Everything, even the detent. Perfect centering. How about this guy? Perfect centering. Lockup percentage. It does have a steel lock bar insert that doubles as the over travel stop, by the way. Very good. Contact. Plenty of contact there. You can see that dirty area. We'll do this guy too. I know you guys like to see everything. Honestly, I think they're exactly the same. Yeah, literally. Okay, what do I think? I'm a huge fan of the VBR, the original. So when I heard that there was going to be a longer one, yeah, it's just like I said at the beginning, I automatically pre-ordered it. These are made by Riot, and they are very nice knives. The base price, I think the starting price is $350 for my Carta. You can go up $5 for carbon fiber, which is honestly what I would do. But if you really like my Carta, then, knock yourself out. And then I think, honestly, the base versions of these, they start at $350 and they cap out at $370 if you want, like, all black, right? Which I would assume would be black carbon fiber and then the black blade and everything. I think that's fine. You're going to pay another $200 for Damasteel. I don't know if that also comes with, like, the Mokatai or whatever. I have no idea. I did not opt for that this time because I've already got this guy, and Damasteel has become very expensive. That is not the most offensive price increase that I've ever seen for Damasteel. WeKnives seems to think that Damasteel costs an extra $325, which is hilarious. Normally, I like to see about a $150 increase for Damasteel, but inflation, right? I mean, I know it's such a lazy thing, but it does make it harder, right? There's a lot more to it than just like, hey, let's just make it a better price. Like, it's not, he's still got to operate this in a way that allows him to make money so that he can do more projects. The nice thing is you don't have to get Damasteel, right? It's really, honestly, the performer is probably going to be the M390 anyway for this geometry. Yeah, do I think the base price is fair? Yes, I don't have a problem with that. This is a knife that has a little bit more going for it and is made by Riot. Riot generally is going to be a step up from, let's say, the standard stuff, right? If you're looking at knives or Bestech knives that are coming in around $250, there's a noticeable difference in overall quality and just appeal, right? The care that goes into the design. And that's a combination of the designer and, of course, Riot. But yeah, I think that this is a $350 knife all day. I don't have a problem with that. I honestly can't remember what the original VBR came in at. I want to say, and this was years ago, but I want to say it was about $300, maybe. Was it $275, $300? I can't remember because I didn't buy the regular version. I bought the fancy boy. So yeah, for people who are looking in this territory, do I think it's worth it? Yeah, I do. I recommend it to you. If you're, still climbing the ladder, or you're used to buying knives under 50, under 100, or under 150, or, you're still in that area, the under $200 territory, you might look around and see what it is that you're after. Are you after more of the enthusiast, more of the ooh, the ah, the feeling, if you're, or are you more on the utility end of it, right? Because every dollar that's spent from that territory up goes more into the ooh and the ah and less into the utility. Like, you can get utility for less than $50. So you got to ask yourself what type of person you are. For somebody like me who's an enthusiast collector and likes to use their knives, this has all of that, right? This has all of that together. It's a good tool. It's kind of got a less flashy overall appearance, more, I hate the word minimalist. I hate it, right? It just sounds ugh, I don't know. Makes my mouth taste bad to say minimalist. But it does have a nice appearance. It has the appearance of a good quality tool, right? It's kind of blurring that line between tool and collector's piece, but still incredibly functional, very durable, and will certainly last you, I would venture to guess, a lifetime, like many things in this tier. So I think it's worth the money. I can't wait to get mine. I think they are planned to deliver in January, which is not too far off. So yeah, get your pre-orders in, and you should expect to see these pretty soon. Thanks again to Varga for letting me take a look at these. please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.